Anyone who believes in indefinite growth on a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist.
We don't want to focus politics on a notion that involves the rejection of principles around which a large majority of our fellow citizens organize their lives.
We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think.
We're just beginning to glimpse our future. A new economic system is entering onto the world stage. It's called the Collaborative Commons. This is the first new economic system to emerge since the advent of capitalism and socialism in the early 19th century. So it's a remarkable event. And the introduction of this new economic system, the Collaborative Commons, is going to dramatically impact all of our lives, the way we work, the way we play, the way we live, as we move further into the 21st century. The precipitating agent, the trigger, that's taking us from the capitalist system to the Collaborative Commons is something called zero marginal cost. Do not be frightened. I know this is a business term. Marginal cost is the cost of producing an additional unit of a good or service once your fixed costs are absorbed. Let me explain the impact of zero marginal cost. There's a paradox deeply embedded in the heart of the capitalist system, previously undisclosed. Not even Karl Marx got it. In a capitalist market, sellers are continually in search of new technologies that can increase productivity, reduce marginal costs, so they can put out cheaper products, win over consumers from their competitors, bring back some profit for their investors. So businesses have always wanted to reduce marginal costs. In an economic theory of capitalism, what's interesting is the economics theory says that the marginal cost is the optimal efficient state in which to price a good or service. It's just that economists never in their wildest imagination anticipated a technology revolution whose productivity was so extreme that it might bring those marginal costs to near zero, making goods and services essentially free, abundant, beyond profit in the exchange capitalist economy. That's what's beginning to happen. It's quite extraordinary. We saw the zero marginal cost phenomena sweep through the information goods industries over the last 15 years. Millions of people, then hundreds of millions of people, turned consumer to prosumer. And they began to produce their own music and share with each other, bypassing the recording industry. They began to produce and share their own videos on YouTube, bypassing the entertainment industry at near zero marginal cost and for free. And then millions of people began to create their own news blogs, bypassing the traditional media at near zero marginal cost, sharing it for free. And then, of course, the publishing industry. Millions of people are producing their own information and also free ebooks at near zero marginal cost. The recording industry tumbled in less than 5 years when young people began to share music with each other, bypassing the industry. Newspapers went out of business, magazines bellied up when young people began to move to their own blogs and share their own knowledge on Wikipedia. And the publishing industry has been racked by free ebooks at near zero marginal cost. So this zero marginal cost phenomenon has already invaded the entire information goods industry. We take it for granted, but it's changed the equation. We've now democratized communication. 40% of the human race is up there on the web. They have cheap cell phones and desktop computers. They only have to pay a service provider, and they're producing and sharing all sorts of entertainment and information goods at near zero marginal cost free on this Collaborative Commons already. Economists have said, well, okay, we understand that the information goods industry has been literally turned upside down by the zero marginal cost phenomenon, but we think there's a firewall here. And that the zero marginal cost phenomena will not breach the firewall and move from the virtual world of information goods to the physical brick and mortar world of energy and manufactured products. That's no longer the case. The wall has been breached. We are now moving from bits to atoms, and the change is being precipitated by a metamorphosis of the internet. The internet is now morphing into a super internet, an internet of things. So the conventional internet we're used to is beginning to converge with a fledgling energy internet and a nascent automated transport and logistics internet to create a super internet, bringing together the three things that every economy and society needs to manage itself. Every economy in history has to have a source of communication, a source of energy and power, and a source of logistics and mobility. So now we have the communication internet beginning to converge with an energy internet and an automated transport internet to create an internet of things. And this super internet, this operating platform, is like a brain. And now it's sending out the tentacles to create the nervous system. We have 14 billion sensors now connecting resource flows, monitoring what's going on in the environment. We have sensors connecting warehouses and distribution centers to see what's going on in those warehouses. We have sensors connecting smart roads and traffic patterns. We have sensors on the factory floor monitoring and feeding real-time data on what's going on in production. We have sensors on the new electricity grid that can tell us the price of electricity and which appliance is being used and which appliance is not being used. We have sensors in retail stores monitoring consumer traffic, who's buying and what are they buying. We have sensors connecting everything, every device, every contrivance with every human being in our natural environment. By 2020, IBM says 50 billion sensors. By 2030, the latest forecast, 100 trillion sensors connecting the human world, the natural world, and all the things in it. Now, of course, your first reaction is this is exciting, and your second reaction is this is a little scary. It's exciting because we're creating a nervous system that can connect the human race, our fellow creatures, in one planet, so we can begin to think as a species. It's frightening because the question emerges, what about data security? What about privacy? What about cyber terrorism? I deal with all of this at length in the Zero Marginal Cost Society. If we can't address these issues, we will not be able to enjoy the benefits of the next stage of the human journey. So what this means is if we maintain network neutrality, which is a big if, you know, on the internet, it's neutral. So all of us can go on the internet, we pay our service fee for a provider, and we are treated like everyone else, our information. We're not put at the back of the line or the front of the line. We're not discriminated against. It allows everyone to have open access. That's the value of the internet. That's now being challenged, but now that we go to the super internet, the internet of things, communication, energy, and a logistics internet, we have to protect network neutrality because now anyone in the world will be able to go on to this super internet. It's already starting to emerge. It's not academic. And with your own mobile technology, you can have your own apps established ahead of time, and you can begin to mine the big data flowing through this system, just like the big guys at Google or at General Motors. And you can use that big data with advanced analytics, with programmed apps, so you won't have to be a scientist, and you can use that data to create your own algorithms, just like Google, and dramatically increase your productivity, reduce the marginal cost in producing and sharing renewable energy and 3D printed products. Just like we now use our mobiles and apps, and we produce and share our own information across a flow of information on the internet. So we have democratized communication in 24 years. We've got 40% of the human race, and any one of us can go on that internet and potentially have access to 40% of the human race at near zero marginal cost. But that's just the beginning of the story. Now we're going to be able, in the years ahead, and it's already started, to produce our own and share our own renewable energy, and soon our own 3D printed products across vast collaborative commons at near zero marginal cost and nearly for free. Renewable energy. We now have millions and millions and millions of small players, producer cooperatives, consumer cooperatives, small and medium-sized enterprises, neighborhood associations, farmers, and households. They're producing their own green energy right now at near zero marginal cost, right now. The harvesting technology is still a little pricey, but it's on an exponential curve for solar and wind. We've been on an exponential curve for 20 years in solar and wind. You know how much a solar watt of electricity cost in 1970? $60. You know what it costs tonight? 66 cents, and it's going down. So just as in the computer world, the information internet, we doubled the knowledge and half the cost on the chips, and by exponential curves, we could get to very cheap computing. We're seeing that now in the world of atoms when it gets to energy. So even before you put the technology in, you have to pay for the solar, you have to pay for the wind technology, but before you pay the fixed cost back, the marginal cost of actually generating that sun and wind, it's already nearly free as soon as you install the technology. The sun off your roof is free. The wind flowing through your property is free. The geothermal heat underneath your office building, it's free. You just have to capture it. This is already a reality now. In Germany, 25% of the electricity is green. 35% of electricity will be green by 2020. Some of you know I've advised the Chancellor and German government since she came into office. And already we have so much solar and wind coming into the grid that it's disrupting the old system. There's some problems now. The wholesale price has gone way down, but the retail price has gone up because we have to pay back for the installations. But when we get over that hump, Germany's going to be at near zero marginal cost energy across the country. And once you have the energy generated, you can send it up on the energy internet, any surplus, and you can share it across Germany and hopefully across the European continent. Just like we create information, store it in digital, and share it online, that's now beginning to emerge in Germany, Denmark, and some other places. 3D printed products. We now have hundreds of thousands of hobbyists and thousands of startup companies that are printing out their own manufactured products at near zero marginal cost. And now in the school systems of America, the White House has a plan where every school is going to get a printer. And I'm sure you're going to do it here. I think that's already been in the discussion within the next year or so, just like the early computers that came into the school. So with these 3D printers, you can download from the Internet of Things, this super internet, the software for free. Most of this is free software, just like we saw in the information internet. And then you can use recycled feedstock for your material to print out the physical object. You can use recycled plastic, recycled paper. They're even using local gravel and stone and melting it down. Power your 3D printer with your own green electricity at near zero marginal cost coming from the local energy internet. Then transport your finished 3D product to market in the next few years on the automated logistics internet. Already we can use electric vehicles with renewable energy. The first 3D printed car is on the road, printed just by a small group of people, printed out using solar energy. It's right now driving on the road. So you'll be able to take a 3D printed car, run by your own green electricity, and then transport it with GPS to the market, and within 7 years to 8 years from now, you'll be able to do it in driverless vehicles and perhaps drones at near zero marginal cost. So what we've done in the information industry, which devastated the traditional big corporations, this is now moving to energy and 3D printed products. There's a big pushback by traditional industries, don't want this to happen. The recording industry tried to stop the young people sharing music with legislation and encryption. It failed. It's too sweet. Once the technology is there, it's going to be used. The newspapers and magazine and book publishing industry tried to thwart people producing and sharing their own news, knowledge, and information and books. It's too sweet. Again, the economists had it right when they say the optimum efficient economy is where you sell at marginal cost. They just never expected it would be zero, therefore no more profits. So the question becomes, if we can begin to produce and share our own information, our own entertainment, our own news, our own knowledge, our own green energy, and our own manufactured products, what kind of economic system would we have to develop to organize this kind of economic activity? Our economists are fairly short-sighted. They believe there's only two ways to organize an economy: Private enterprise, government, or some combination between the two, a social market economy. What they ignore is that there's another sector in our life, in this room and around the world, that we rely on every single day to provide all sorts of goods and services that are absolutely essential to our well-being, that are not part of the private enterprise system and not enabled by government. It's called the social commons, the social economy. Some of it's formalized as the nonprofit sector, but it's even bigger than that. It's all of the activity we engage in willingly, playfully, to create social capital and help produce and share things together. It's huge. It's enormous. It's not counted by economists because it doesn't create market capital. A survey was done by Johns Hopkins University of nonprofits around the world, and they found that it's already a $2.2 trillion revenue industry. And what's most interesting is that this social commons is growing faster than the marketplace. Between 2000 and 2010, the social commons around the world grew at 42% in revenue. The private enterprise system, GDP, grew at 14%. And already in the UK, the US, and Canada, it's over 5% of the GDP. The social commons includes health organizations, nonprofit school systems, environmental organizations, sports, arts, and cultural groups, assisted living for the elderly, helping the poor, every kind of activity you can imagine that's deeply social, that's deeply collaborative and cooperative. What's bringing this social commons out of the shadows is the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is the technological soulmate of a social commons because its architecture is designed, think of these three internets, communication, energy, and logistics. The architecture is designed to be distributed, collaborative. It favors peer production and lateral networks so that millions of small players, social entrepreneurs, SMEs, households, nonprofits can come together. They can bypass all the middlemen in the vertically integrated global corporations of the 20th century and produce and share information, energy, and goods and services at a lower cost towards zero. It makes it actually more competitive than the current system, but that competition means it's not for profit. So people say to me, well, how would you ever have incentive to operate an economic system if it wasn't based on profit? Wake up call. We're doing it already. Cooperatives. Billions of people are in cooperatives, and they don't talk about it in the economics profession. We have farm cooperatives providing a lot of our food. We have housing cooperatives providing much of our housing around the world. We have banking cooperatives that are bigger than commercial banks in many countries. We have all of these cooperatives. Billions of people are involved with them, and we seem to make a very prosperous economy, but it doesn't require profit. The new electricity in Germany, well over half of it is being produced by consumer and producer cooperatives beyond the market. So what we're beginning to see here is the emergence of this collaborative commons atop an emerging Internet of Things platform, where millions and hundreds of millions of people are beginning to produce and share on a distributed collaborative technology infrastructure much of their life. It's not just that we are sharing information and entertainment and green renewable energy and 3D printed products. We have a whole younger generation, some of you in the room, you're sharing everything else. You're sharing cars, a lot of it with nonprofit car sharing services. There are millions of young people now in less than 5 years, they don't want to own a car, they just want access to mobility, and they want to be sustainable. For every car that's shared, we take 15 automobiles off the road. So there's 1 billion vehicles on the road now, do the math. Well, 1 billion vehicles, take 80% out, and this is a big leap forward for the new economy and a big plunge for the old economy, and we will address climate change by radically reducing emissions. And you know how we do it? By extreme productivity. The new way to measure sustainability is extreme productivity. Everyone says, how do you measure sustainability? Well, we can measure ecological footprint, but how do you actually measure it in economic terms? Let me introduce this to you first time tonight. Zero marginal cost is the most sustainable state because it allows us to produce goods and services with the minimum input of energy, labor, time, and capital, and optimize the output. So when you talk about the most sustainable economy in the world, it's one that heads to near zero marginal cost. That's extreme sustainability, extreme productivity. So we're not only sharing cars, we're now sharing our apartments and our homes. Airbnb is commercial, but couch surfing is not. And so once your rent is paid and you're paying your mortgage and your property taxes, the fixed costs are there, the marginal cost of letting your apartment or home being used is near marginally zero. 1 million hotel nights were eliminated in New York because people were sharing their apartment and Airbnb. Now, since buildings are a huge factor in CO2 emissions, imagine if we start eliminating some of that space and we share what we have with more people. We're now sharing clothes up on the collaborative common and toys. Apparel has a big, big impact on the environment. And now young people are sharing on ThreadUp and Recycle and other networks so that the apparel has 9 lives. The toys have 9 lives. And kids are growing up to realize a toy is not something you own. It's something you experience for a few days and then it's sent on to somebody else. That's a complete change in our worldview. We have a generation in this room moving from ownership to access, from markets to networks, from a capitalist system to a collaborative commons. So we're seeing a hybrid economy emerge, part capitalist market, part collaborative commons. Capitalism isn't going to disappear. It is going to move into a sunset stage. It won't disappear. There will still be goods and services with sufficient margin. We will buy them, products and services. However, the companies that survive are going to become niche players, and they'll help aggregate network solutions and services and find value in enhancing the collaborative commons and enhancing the infrastructure. But my suspicion is that by 2050, the collaborative commons will be the dominant economic paradigm all over the world. The capitalist market will be a partner, a junior partner, adding value, but it will not be the exclusive arbiter of the life of you young people and your children and grandchildren, I don't think, by 2050. This is a promising journey. We share. That's the nature of human nature, to be extremely social. We had a short reign of a couple hundred years during the industrial stage of capitalism, first and second industrial revolution, where we sort of got off that track. We're getting back on the track again. And the irony of it all is it's the technology of the free market and the capitalist system that took us to near zero marginal cost and provided the opening for this new journey in history. So I welcome a hybrid economy, part capitalist market, part collaborative commons. And for all you young people here, make this journey happen. This is a way that we can begin to address climate change, get off carbon-based energies, share more, use less, and create a just and sustainable world, not only for our human species, but for our fellow creatures on this earth. Make this Internet of Things and collaborative commons your journey.